Well, good afternoon on this beautiful, I guess, Minnesota spring day. First and foremost, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. The sacrifices you put forth for your kids can't be expressed enough in just one day. So I hope all the moms out there are having a wonderful day. You deserve it. You deserve many, many days. Thank you. And of course, thank you to my own mom. Thank you to my wife, mother of our 4 kids, and everyone out there. Like I said, have a wonderful Mother's Day. A little gloomy out, a little rainy, maybe not the beautiful day we wanted, but hey, it's Minnesota. We've been blessed this week with some pretty amazing weather. It almost hit 80 yesterday, mid 70s. It was very warm again on Friday, looking like possibly 80 the next couple days. So spring has finally shown its face. I think we kind of went, and I joked about this the last report, I think we went from winter to summer. It's kind of feeling like that. We went from mid 40-degree water temps all the way into the mid to upper 50s. We saw water temps yesterday as warm as upper 50s. I would imagine it teetered off just a hair today, and it will later as the day progresses. I mean, we saw maybe mid 50-degree water temp, but tomorrow, Tuesday, going to bounce right back. So we're kind of in a little bit of that yo-yo period. And what I'm seeing here, I've been obviously primarily targeting crappies the last week, and we've seen just all kinds of sporadic behavior. A good bite one day, scattered fish the next day. We've seen it to where it goes from everything you throw at them, they commit suicide, they're just kamikazes, to, oh, there they are, I can physically see them in the weeds, and they're not biting anything. So we've had to zig and zag quite a bit this week. Now, we oftentimes just think, oh, once the water hits that magical mid 50-degree mark, these fish are going to go bonkers. You have to remember, if it's not uniform, or it's not, let's say, consistent, there's not stable water temperature change, that can play a role, and we don't think about that. We just see that number on our Lowrance and go, oh, 50-some degrees, man, they should be snapping. Well, that's surface temp. So you have to think about that. Now, main lake weeds, that kind of stuff, you have a lot of cooler water below, especially if cooler water's nearby. Now, if you're back in a cut, boat channel, harbor, whatever it might be, you're going to have uniform water from here to the bottom. So if it's 3-4 feet deep, that entire water might be in the 50s, and that's why you're seeing these fish transition into these areas. And you're thinking, well, why? It's the same temperature main lake. Well, you could be in 6-7 feet, and the bottom 3-4 feet could be back into the 40s, and these fish just aren't quite holding on those areas yet. So you need to have a little more stable, warm weather, not just these peaks and valleys where it's really warm in the afternoon, cooler at night. So once we get some consistently warm weather like we're seeing actually right now, you're going to see some of these fish on the main lake spots start to house their locations there on those spots in the weeds and that kind of stuff, and really start to think about the spawn. We're not seeing much for fish, at least here in the metro, Minnetonka especially, a lot of metallic, dark colored fish. They're just not quite there yet. We are a week or two behind, I'd say, for sure, with everything we're seeing. And we're going to see a lot change this week. We had really warm weather this weekend, some rain today, which cooled things off just a tad. Maybe some lingering rain into tomorrow. And they're saying, I think, 80-some degrees for Tuesday. That should really, really jump things. So we're going to touch on what the bite's like right now. And we're going to kind of like maybe talk about a little bit about the opener, maybe a little preview of the opener and some suggestions that I might have on how I attack things. So again, this week we've been zigging and zagging. We've been finding fish back in the boat channels, boat harbors. They've been in some of them. They haven't been in others. They're not all the same, especially when you get some of that wind to blow the cooler water up into some of these boat channels. So if you see a situation to where the wind's blowing you into the boat channel, we've seen those not hold as many fish because the water seems to be blown in there. The cooler water, it's not as stable versus some of the stagnant back cuts. And don't be afraid to get all the way back in there. We got some fish way up in 2 feet of water over the last few days. We've gone way back into the nooks and crannies, lift the trolling motor as high as it can go, plop through that stuff to find little pockets and pools and beaver dams and down trees, and these fish are holding to that. Some of these crappies have been very, very, very precise, meaning if we're fishing this spot in my garage, they could be on just a little corner because there's a little bit of a down tree or some wood, and they're holding right to it. So if you get bit, if you get a bite, if you catch a crappie, slow down and see what that fish is relating to. We've noticed, especially in recent days, that they're really, really relating to specific pieces of structure inside these boat channels. Maybe one dock, maybe one down tree, maybe one little stretch because there's a beaver dam there, maybe one little cut because there's a little bit of deeper water. So we've seen that just a boat channel or a back bay isn't just housing fish. There's specific spots inside of those areas that are housing fish. And pay attention to your surroundings. Look at what's happening. Look at what they're relating to and see if you can find some consistencies in other boat channels and other harbors. We've seen that to be true, especially in the last few days. And you're gonna see things really turn on here. You're gonna see some of those main lake weeds. You're gonna see the crappie spawn happen here now in the very near future, and it's starting to teeter that way on some bodies of water. But this next week, it's gonna be awesome. So water temps, we're finding low 50s on average, some mid 50s stuff later in the day as the sun gets higher and the water warms up. And we're seeing the crappie starting to move shallow. The bite's getting more consistent. You're seeing some larger fish caught. It's been a lot of fun. We're finally seeing this little spring movement that we should have saw a week or two, 10 days ago. It's happening now. We can't control it. You know what's going on. So this week I plan to do a similar thing. I'm going to be on the water chasing crappies all week. I'll continue to see what these fish are doing and report back next weekend. We have the Minnesota fishing opener in 6 days. This coming Saturday. It's crazy to think we're talking spring conditions. It feels like spring, a little bit of warm weather, and here we are looking the fishing opener smack dab in the face. And how do I plan to attack it? Quite frankly, I'll probably be fishing some crappies because we're, like I said, 10 days behind. The prime time window to catch some of your best crappies, I think, is going to be this week and into the weekend. So I plan to still target crappies. I'm going to have a chance to fish bass and walleye all year long. I try to capitalize on the best bite available to me, and I think this coming week and weekend, it could definitely be some crappie fishing. Now, that being said, I'm going to have bass rods in the boat. I'm going to try to catch a walleye. I'm going to do all that stuff because I can now, and it's super exciting. But let's go back quick on how we're catching our crappies. I'm going to post some pictures in the comments. You'll see a picture where I've been really leaning on 1/32 ounce drop TGs. It's a tungsten jig. Small profile, but fish is a little heavier, and I'm fishing that sassy stingum, that Mr. Twister minnow body fleck tail bait. I've been catching a pile of fish on that. It'll dart, it'll fall, we can fish it under a float, we can cast and retrieve it. It's been a really good bait for us to catch a bunch of fish this last week. We've caught a lot of fish on tubes. Tube baits have caught a lot of fish, but I would say predominantly my best bite again this week has been on hair jigs. And I'm using a variety of different colors and stuff, and I haven't seen it make a big difference. I just think the way it falls and appears in the water, it triggers these fish to bite. And what I'm doing is I'm fishing, you know, just these small, lightweight. This is a 1/64th. I don't know if you can see that right there, but that's a 1/64th. And Jack ties these, my son, and we use a variety of different heads, whether it's one of these that Crappie Keith provides, whether it's a drop TG head, whether it's a VMC head, all variety of heads. And he's tying them fairly long. You can see that's about 1.5 inches profile, and that's okay. You can fish it that way, but what I've been doing is I've been trimming it down right about to there. I've been trimming it down about 1 inch, 1.25 inches, and that's been how I've catching my fish. So this has been a great way to catch them under a float. It seems to get fish to bite when nothing else is working. Hair jigs continue to catch piles of fish. So I'd have a hair jig, I'd have some plastics, I'd have some tubes, anything from 1/64th ounce to 1/32, and then I'm fishing a rocket bobber or a float underneath that, above that hair jig, I should say, to catch my fish. And I'm starting to really fan cast some of the other plastics depending on the situation. And that bite without a bobber is going to get better here as the water warms up and these fish get more aggressive. But I've seen the hair jig and the float combination has really caught a pile of fish because I can get it in the strike zone. I can stall it out. I can work that bobber just enough to get that jig to kind of swim and dance, and it's not falling into the cover because I'm fishing trees, branches, docks. I don't want it to fall on the bottom of the lake. I want to keep it in the strike zone and have it swimming around, and that's why I'm implementing a float. So that's how I'm catching crappies. Plan to do it again this whole week. Now, a little bit of a foreshadowing for how I'm going to chase my bass and my game fish this weekend. I plan to throw probably something just a more versatile, get out there and just chase down some fish. You know, I'm going to probably throw that sassy swimmer. This is just a ribbed bodied bait, and I'll show you exactly what this is. We've talked about this in the past. It's just a rib-bodied, thin-bodied paddle tail, right? It's only about a 4-inch profile, 3.5-inch profile. I'm putting that on a 1/8 ounce jig head, and I'm just casting and retrieving that. I'm covering water, I'm covering weed lines, I'm covering pockets. A lot of these fish right now, whether it be walleyes or bass, are going to be relating to relatively shallow cover. I mean, they're going to find that warm water, it feels good, the walleyes are just getting done spawning, the bass are starting to think about it, and I'm just going to cover water with that. Probably a 15-pound braid, 8-pound fluorocarbon leader, and I'm just going to cover water with a spinning rod. Super easy. Hopefully get some walleyes on the weed lines with that, get some bass to come and commit, that kind of stuff. Or I'm going to be probably throwing a wacky rig for largemouth bass. I can tell you right now, the bass are all over the shallow water. The other day we were crappie fishing, and I bet you we caught no less than 25 largemouth. Not exaggerating, on our hair jigs. They're just committing suicide up in that shallow water. They're there, they're hungry, they're ready. Again, we're a couple of weeks behind, like we said. And I think this weekend, if you want to target the bass, which is legal in Minnesota, you just have to let them all go. It's a catch and release season. I plan to throw a wacky rig, and I'll probably throw a pocket fry or a Kamita at them. And I'm just going to cover water and watch these fish eat. They've been really hungry. They've been biting everything. We've caught some really largemouth bass in the last week, and I plan on really catching some next weekend and have some fun with that. You can also throw a chatterbait, a spinnerbait, something that's reactive to get these bass and pike to go. So I anticipate that this coming weekend for the opener, we see a lot of fish count. Let's just see what the weather does. Hopefully it's nice out. It's kind of looking that way. It's trending towards another nice fishing opener where it's going to be comfortable and not miserable, but we'll see. It's Minnesota. The weather can change overnight. So I'm excited. We had a lot going on here. I know everyone here is pumped up. It's a state holiday coming up, and it's next Saturday, the Minnesota fishing opener. Everyone is amped up to get out and not just catch panfish and catch something a little larger. So I know further north, cross your fingers, there's still some ice in the lakes. Let's hope that gets kicked. I know Mille Lacs is wide open. I know you're going to be fishing anything around the cities. I know the southern part of the state is super excited and anticipating a great fishing opener. But I plan to chase some crappies, probably get some bass, maybe hopefully get a walleye. And this coming week, it'll be all crappies. Game on, springtime crappie action. Gonna have a lot of fun. And we'll report back next Sunday. And again, all the moms out there, hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day. Go out there and catch them. Enjoy your spring.